Welcome to part 2 of the FairyCreek portrait, where we'll be going over the Photoshop editing. You can see we got two layers here, with one is the edited version and the other is the camera raw default. And we also have a folder with a couple of different tonal adjustments that I brought in from camera raw. One for the dress and one for the skin, which we'll be treating a little bit differently. On the skin layer, I'm going to make a quick mask, and that's going to allow me to edit some areas differently than others. Now if I fill it in with black, it's going to hide everything, and wherever I paint white, it's going to fill it in. So you can see that this tonal edit is a lot brighter than the previous one, and it brings in a lot more saturation in the skin color. So basically I'm just working through trying to get all the areas of the skin that I'd like to show out. And I'd also like to brighten the hair in this case. Now it's really easy to fix up your mistakes if you ever go over the edge a little bit too much. Just switch your brush to black and you can paint it back again. Switch back to white, fill in as you see fit. Painting a little bit lighter in some of these translucent areas because I don't want them to blow out too much. And in between all the lace for a natural look. I like to turn it off and on, and if you press the backslash button you can also see the red version there. It gives you a better idea of where you're painting. And that looks pretty good. Just fix up a few little small areas. Now it's a little bit too much, but I'll be turning it down a little bit later. Now for the dress, we're going to make quick mask the exact same thing, and we're going to try to lighten up some of the darker areas of the dress. Now if we were to do the entire dress, it would totally blow out the areas that were already pretty white. That's why it's really important to just do this selectively. And again, backslash to get the red preview. If you ever want to turn it off, just backslash again. And just changing the opacity of both of these quick mask layers, just so they were a little bit too bright, and we wanted to make them look a little bit more natural. And that looks much better. Just making a copy of the top portion of the dress, which was stuck in shadow, and if we do some tonal adjustments here, we can make that look just a little bit more lighter, like the bottom area. And adjust the mid-range as well, and that takes the shadow right out of it. Much better. Just going to merge those two layers together. And that looks good. Now I'm going to use the patch tool and get rid of some of these unsightly areas, such as this stick that's drawing way too much attention. There's a lot of different types of tools you can use for patching, but in this particular case, the other ones didn't work. And now we can touch up with the spot removal tool. Trying to find little distracting areas. I like this little curvy bit, but not this one on the rock. Get rid of some of these spots, especially spots around the edges can be really distracting. Some mosquito bites in the skin we'll get rid of here. The larger ones we'll have to treat a little bit differently, but the smaller ones we can zap out really easily. Unfortunately, the model got attacked about 25 times. A little cut on the lip, no problem at all. Rid of a few of these spots in the rock. Again on the edge. You can see we've got a lot of chromatic aberration where you see these magenta streaks and then the green streaks. So we're just going to put our brush on color and start painting out. We'll sample other colors nearby. Very easy to do. You can remove chromatic aberration in Camera Raw sometimes, but when it's not working properly, this is an easy way to get around it. Again, just sampling colors from nearby areas. You can see all the green on these sides that I'm getting rid of. And the magenta on the tips of those branches. Very easy. I'm going to do a selection for this area because there's quite a bit that we want to deal with. And we're going to do color adjustment with the selective color, and just have to move down to the magenta, and we're going to take a lot of that right out of there, turning the cyan up and the magenta down completely. That looks good, and a little bit stuck in the reds there as well. And now that I know that those settings worked out pretty well, I'm going to do a selection for the other side as well. I'm going to put a little bit of a feather on this selection so it blends in smoothly. And we already know what our settings were from the other side. So get the cyan up, the magenta down, and on the red we're going to do the same thing. It looks like we got a little bit of yellow in there that needs to be adjusted too. And that looks good. Fix up some little bits around the toes, and these little bits of kind of cyan that have crept through. Again, doing the painting with the mode set to color. This isn't just a standard paint. You're just going to be selecting the color. You can see quite a bit on her neck. I always like to zoom out to get a big picture, see what I might be missing. And here, the model complained that from that angle, the bump on the outside of her toe just protruded a little bit too much. So I'm just making a selection and copy and paste on top of it, and just going to transform that down a little bit, rotate it back into place, and very easy. Just make sure you have a feather when you do your selection so it blends in nice and smooth. And that looks good. And merge those layers together again. Now I'm going to make 2 copies of this layer. And we're going to do some frequency separation. First one we'll call low, and the second one high. And we're going to use this frequency separation to improve some areas in the skin. Now what you want to do is you want to blur the low. Just get it so that the texture is being lost in the skin, but not too blurry that you can't make out anything. I think usually around 6 will get you pretty close to what you're looking for. Now if we go to the high layer, what we're going to do is apply image, and we're going to subtract from the layer below it. So go to subtract, and on the layer setting, we're going to hit low. And you kind of see this funny gray embossed sort of look. And I just use the settings 2 and 128 for the scale and offset. And as your blending mode for the layer, select linear light. Just going to put these into a group from layers so we can see the difference when we turn it on and off. And you should notice any difference until you start to edit it. Now on the low layer, we're going to select the paintbrush and just going to sample areas nearby and paint out any shadows or any broad colors that seem to be displaced. Just going to work through the entire skin like this, smoothing out any odd shadows, etc. Now this isn't going to affect any of the fine details, like any of the skin textures or fine strands of hair or anything like that. It's just the kind of the broad colors and tones. And when we're done working with the low section, then we'll go into the fine details that we'll handle on the high layer. Now this is a good place to get rid of all those big mosquito bites that have caused some discoloration and also some tonal differences. And some of the veins of the foot that are showing up a little bit strong with that lighting. Big mosquito bite right there. Smooth out all the tones of the leg. And these awkward shadows. These pink areas here, really easy to fix up. A few final touch-ups. And that looks pretty good. So now we'll go to the high. So the high frequency is all the fine details, and we're going to use the spot removal just to get rid of some little bits here and there that stand out. And the high details, changes to the high details are not going to affect the broad low details. And there we go. Just going to merge all of those together so you can see the before and after the frequency separation. Now we're just going to paint out. The model had some nail polish that she wanted smoothed out. She kind of had French tips on just a few of her toes, so she wanted to get those all the same. Don't be afraid to use your paintbrush. Just grab samples everywhere and start painting, and make sure you add a lot of variation as you go. Fix up some of the edges where the light seems to be reflecting off her toe and distorted the edge a little bit. And that's good. To this area here, it's a little bit distracting in the background, so I'm going to bring in another tonal adjustment from Camera Raw, and again we're going to be doing another quick mask to try to get those areas all darker and more unified. And again, fill it black to block it all out, and then we'll be painting with white to fill back in the areas that we want. Paint this all in. Darken that up. Again, you can press backspace or backslash to get your red mode. See exactly what you're adjusting. Just going to paint back a little bit with the black because I went too far on the rocks. I lost all my detail. And that looks good. Much more unified now. And I'm just going to merge those layers together. Don't like to have too many layers in my file. It gets a little bit out of control. Now you can see on the eyes, I've got a little bit of purple that's coming in through there. So we're going to sample some white. Just try to get that purpley color out. Now we're going to make another copy, and basically we're going to make a bright version of the eyes. Of course it brightens everything up, but have no worries, we're going to mask the rest of it out later once we're done. Now using the dodge tool, we're going to try to bring out some of these natural highlights that are in the eyes. The objective isn't to create something out of nothing there. You're actually looking really carefully at what's already there and just kind of exaggerating it. And now we're going to paint back the mask in just the areas that we want. And I want to grab a little bit of the highlight around the eye as well. And turn down the opacity because you don't want it super bright. That's just to help you, guide you as you're doing it. And I find that the separation is a little bit too strong, so I'm just going to blur the mask slightly so it blends in smoothly. And that looks good to me. I'll do that same method for the teeth as well once in a while. Going to make a duplicate of where we're at so far, and we're going to jump into a sharpening for the image. For this particular image, we're going to do the high pass to sharpen. So if you go to image and desaturate, you need to start off with this, then filter other high pass. Usually I go between 4 and 5. If you go too small, you're not going to notice the sharpen. If you go too large, then you're going to get kind of a really artificial, tinny look. So you just kind of want the edges to pop out, and 4.5 seems to do it for this image. You set it to overlay, then it blends in nicely with your photo. Turn that on and off. You can see the changes. Much better. Now I'm not going to do the sharpen on everything, so I'm going to create a quick mask there and just paint in where I'd like it. So I like to keep the skin nice and smooth, but anywhere around the eyes, the nostrils, the eyebrows, the lips should all be sharpened. Sometimes I do the hair, sometimes I don't. Really depends on the look I'm going for. If there's jewelry, I like to keep it nice and sharp. And if you hit like a lace or highly textured clothing, it kind of helps make the skin look extra smooth by just sharpening the edges of that as well. And to help sell the depth, I'm going to sharpen along the plane here that's in focus. And this view helps give me a better idea of where I'm at. Much better. And that concludes all of the edits for the FairyCreek portrait. The Photoshop portion, just going to merge those layers together. We can do a before and after from the other edits. And now we'll do a before and after from the original Camera Raw. Hopefully you see the dramatic changes. Thank you so much for watching Impossible Color. Please subscribe and share your ideas for new videos in the comments below. See you next week.